inside Jeffrey Epstein's forgotten AI summit. Long before ChatGPT, a group of AI luminaries gathered on an island to discuss the future of artificial intelligence. Their funder ultimately cast a shadow on all who attended. Yes, that's right. A small group of scientists gathered for the St. Thomas Common Sense Symposium. AI pioneer Marvin Minsky, who we have talked about as part of the Technocracy series, was the central presence, along with his protege, Pushpinder Singh. After the symposium, Minsky, Singh, and renowned philosopher Aaron Sloman published a paper on the group's ideas for how to reach human-like AI. They talk about the struggle of it. They see that there's some issues, and then they go in the acknowledgement section and say, this meeting was made possible by the generous support of Jeffrey Epstein. The symposium itself, in fact, was held in the Virgin Islands, home of Epstein's now notorious island retreat. Looking back at this event reveals something about the state of AI, as well as these symposiums' execrable funder. So Epstein seems to have found a way to get these people to collectively group together and talk about AI. Now, I could not find corroboration, like actual evidence, but I will present to you the claims. Epstein survivor, Virginia Giuffre, alleged she was directed to have sex with Minsky at Epstein's Island. Now, Minsky, again, I want to be clear, we've covered this on the Technocracy series. Marvin Minsky is considered one of the fathers of AI. And in some ways, he was a little bit influenced by some of the technocratic ideas that were kind of bumming around the scientific community at the time. Okay, so it's not to say that he knew anybody or was directly related with technocracy, but the ideas of technocratic stuff, they definitely had an impact on some of the work that he did. Minsky's wife, who says she accompanied the scientist when he visited Epstein, and that they only went to the New York and Palm Beach residences, has vehemently denied the charge, which was made shortly before Minsky's death and was not revealed until much later. So, do we know that this is true? We don't have, verifiable proof. These are just the claims being made. We know what happened with Epstein. We sadly know that Giuffre here tragically took her own life in 2025, which means we cannot get to the bottom of this, at least not by statements by potential victims. However, one way or another, however you might want to look at it, however Epstein pulled this off, Epstein managed to get these people together to talk about AI. Jeffrey used to say how fond he was of Marvin and how much he loved talking to him about AI, the source says. In those years, the subject wasn't very popular. It was a time when people were really skeptical about whether AI had legs. In other words, whether there was whether AI had a future. That's another way of saying it. So the idea arose to host a small AI gathering with Minsky at the center. It's not clear whether the funding for the event came from a $100,000 donation made by Epstein to support Minsky's research, but the event would center on the ideas from Minsky's star student, Pushpinder Singh. In 1996, Singh wrote a short paper called Why AI Failed. To get human-like intelligence, he argued we need systems with common sense, knowledgeable, and flexible ways to use it. Problem? Well, it's going to be, obviously a big problem. The event was hard to organize. The people on the guest list grew. They had some more people in there. I'm going to be going through some of these names to see if anything kind of keys up here, but from initial cursory glances, I didn't find anything of particular, like a big note that I need to really, really talk about. They had a science fiction writer, Werner Vinge, who's credited with the concept of AI singularity. They had the UK philosopher Sloman, who was almost 90. He wasn't on Epstein's original invitation list. He emailed the Wire earlier, before the article, but he was an added suggestion, and so he showed up. This symposium took place at a ritzy hotel in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. One night, everyone went to the beach on Epstein's private island for a barbecue dinner. The working sessions themselves were contentious. There were moments when it was battling egos, and it was hard to move them along on the agenda. Sometimes it dove into stuff that was super technical, and other times at a more philosophical level. Epstein's own participation in the discussions seems to have been minimal. Jeffrey popped in and out the whole time. I think had some private conversations with some of the scientists. The source didn't recall witnessing a scene that Roger Schenck later described in an interview with the journal Slate. Roger Schenck said Epstein walks into the conference with 2 girls on his arm. While the scientists discussed AI theory, Schenck said Epstein was in the back on a couch hugging and kissing these girls. Is that true? I don't know. But if the stories around why Epstein existed and why he brought people over to his island are true, then why shouldn't AI be a part of this? So they had some egos and infighting. They were talking about how they're going to tackle AI, the science behind it. They needed more theories. They wanted AI to be more human-like. Neural nets alone can't solve AI. And then get a load of this, guys. You guys ready? On the second day of the symposium, there was one moment when the future of AI suddenly came into focus. The day began with more arguments. Then, someone brought up science fiction writer Neil Stephenson's book, The Diamond Age, in which children are taught by a magical book that can tell them stories and answer their questions. The prospect brought the egoistic scientists into harmony. They speculated that AI systems would carry out a conversation with you to help you understand a problem or achieve some goal. You could discuss with it such subjects as how to choose a house or car, how to learn to play a game or get better at some subject, how to decide whether to go to the doctor, and so forth, according to the paper they published. In other words, ChatGPT. The symposium ended with an agreement to further explore how to make that vision a reality. So these guys got together on Epstein's Island, and they came up with what is the current state of AI right now. You're going to go to it for all your answers, and it's going to train you. And it was based on this book. After Push Singh secured his PhD, he was a postdoctoral associate at MIT's Media Lab. He accepted a faculty position. He never assumed the post. In 2006, he unfortunately 404'd himself. And they continued on during this visit to Epstein's Island, talking about different kinds of things, but that was the key takeaway. The key takeaway here was that these people at Epstein's Island had discussed how to turn AI into what would be the equivalent of this magical book. And it would tell you what you need to know. And that is why we are where we are today. That's insane. That's insane. So this is the reason why these companies with AI systems are doing what they're doing with LLMs and the day and age with the chatbots and all that. They're meant to train you, so to speak, like a dragon.